Welcome back to Aging is for Everyone. We're talking about fun places to visit in Buffalo this year, and maybe fun places to take your grandkids. One of those places is the Buffalo History Museum, and here to tell us about what's new at the museum, and maybe even what's old, since it is a museum, is the Director of Communications and Community Engagements, Constance Caldwell. Connie, thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me, Laura.
Now, the Buffalo History Museum, people may know you by your former name. Why don't you tell us what that was so nobody's confused and why you switched?
We were up until last November. We made the announcement. We were the Buffalo and Erie County Historical Society, which once you get that big title branded in your brain is hard to change. But we are now the Buffalo History Museum. And it's surprisingly, we kind of take it for granted, but many people think they're two different history museums. So I did want to clarify that we are formerly the Buffalo and Erie County Historical Society, and now we are the Buffalo History Museum, which when you first hear it is less of a mouthful.
Right, definitely. Yeah. It's a little easier to say.
Yes.
And it kind of says who you are and what you do. You talk about Buffalo's history, and you're actually located in a historical building.
Yes, and with that name change, we also underwent a whole rebrand. So we have a nice, clean, updated look. It's very modern. We still have all the old, wonderful artifacts and collections, of course, I think, that people have come to love. But I think people that have been paying attention or would like to get to know the Buffalo History Museum again or get reacquainted with it will find that it's quite, there's been a lot of changes. We've increased our programming by 33%, and the programming is quite diverse, from lectures to salsa dancing on the portico that's connected to the history of Latin dance. So everything has a historic theme, of course, but we've added a lot of interactive events around it and things that people can participate with, and especially people that want to bring their kids. There are family events, and the closest one to when this show airs is the Harvest Fest, which takes place, I'm going to have to use my little cheat sheet. That's on a Sunday, September 29th. And that is one of the popular events that parents or grandparents can bring their kids to. And there's rides, there's scavenger hunts, and all this stuff that goes on there. There's craft making, free popcorn.
There you go.
Our free popcorn, our popcorn machine was a big hit. But those kinds of things that we have now are attracting a lot of attention. Besides, of course, some new exhibits that we have opening. And the first one I want to talk about is actually one that's an old exhibit that's been updated. And it's the Native American Gallery. And you've been to the Native American exhibit? It's been there. From what, the 4th grade?
Probably.
Many people have said, you know, it was time to update that.
Needed a little sprucing up, I think.
And it had been there since the 40s, and with the generous grant of from the John R. Oshai Foundation, we were able to update it and blow out a wall and extend it and make it more interactive. And it's just such a much more vibrant exhibit. And there's a longhouse that's a lot of fun. The little kid in me loves to explore it. You can walk in and see a replica of this big longhouse in the exhibit. And there's some wonderful headdress pieces that were made by the Haudenosaunee tribe. And that is just something that I think people wanted to see change. And then there still is that remarkable exhibit that was moved and updated too of the Seneca Nation, the Seneca Indians, and it's kind of like a diorama and of the models of the Native Americans. So that is one exhibit that's opening September 13th, and that's our permanent exhibit. So That's there.
Right.
And then we have, we're celebrating the War of 1812. And even though it is 1813, the War of 1812 took place between 12 and 14.
Okay.
So we're actually right on target with the history of Buffalo. From what I understand. And that's when Buffalo, right in this area, in 1813, a lot of action was going on. And forgive me, I'm not a historian on the War of 1812, but what is very exciting about these exhibits there's two of them. One is a touring exhibit that is going to be at the History Museum until January, and that starts in the Buffalo History Museum, and then it's going across the country. Great. So people will get an opportunity to see it there. And that's called the Star-Spangled Nation. And that's a timeline of, or not a timeline, excuse me. It's artists' interpretation and portraits of the War of 1812. I think it'd be very interesting for not only history enthusiasts, but artists themselves. And then another 1812 themed piece we have is called By Fire and Sword, and that is our big, that's our big exhibit. It's not permanent. It'll be here for a year. It closes in the summer, June 2014, and that too, again, will pull out a lot of things in our collection from the War of 1812. There's some artifacts there that are one of our coveted pieces, or pieces that historians really love to see on display and on view, and that's central figures and central heroes of the War of 1812, their weaponry, some of their badges, uniforms, things of that nature. Yeah.
Right, it sounds like a great exhibit.
So, and then the fourth exhibit is a Buff State, it's a brand new gallery actually, and it's curated and fully put together under the Buffalo History Museum's advisement and mentoring, Tony Greco, who is a curator there. And the Buff State Gallery has, their students have put together a gallery called Lost and Found, or an exhibit rather, and in that exhibit people will see just the history of Buffalo, and done through the museum studies at Buff State.
That's terrific. It sounds like there's a lot of good stuff coming up.
Yeah.
And we're going to come back and talk a little bit more about that.
Okay.
And a little bit more about the opening for all those programs.
Good deal. Thank you.
We'll be right back with more.